We always serve Seva Tea on the podcast. It's my favorite tea. You can get it at Seva Tea Lounge, which is inside Kavala Wellness in Long Beach, or on Etsy. And you can find out more information on Instagram at Seva Tea Lounge. She has so many different teas that she's curated. I have some here that I use for the podcast. I have Sacred Heart, Rama Tulsi, and Lucid Dreaming, which is a really fun one to have. But she has so many different ones. And because she's an Ayurvedic practitioner, she uses that as inspiration for her teas. Go check it out. We have the info in the bio below. Welcome to Healing Highs with Lara, where we talk about the highlights and serendipitous moments of our healing journey. I'm Lara. Thank you for being here. If you're new here, I want to introduce myself. I am an energy healer, a Theta Healing Instructor, and a sound healer for humans and animals all over the world. I have two familiars that help me with my healings. They've shapeshifted into these little beings right here. For helping me with the podcast. I wanted to quickly add, it's been so cool that you all have been texting me or DMing me, emailing to tell me your own serendipitous stories, especially very synchronistic stories with the podcast. So someone recently messaged me saying that they were listening to the hummingbird episode and then it ended and they saw two hummingbirds. And then someone else that was a new client for me had reached out to me for a session. And then I guess I emailed them the next day. And right when I emailed them, they were just finishing listening to the first episode. So in its own way, the podcast is facilitating even more of these serendipitous moments, which is just, again, more validating for all of us. So please keep telling me your stories, even if they don't have to do with the podcast. I love hearing your own serendipitous stories. And, it just helps us to encourage us all to keep going on our healing journeys. So I thought it would be really fun today to talk about astral projection. Sometimes it's called astral traveling or remote viewing. I want to share some of my own experiences and then some things that I use that have helped me in the past to, facilitate or further my abilities with astral projection. I also have a guided meditation that's about 30 minutes long that I can take you through. So if you're ever interested and you want someone to guide you through astral projection, just go ahead and email me and we can talk about that. Or you can send me like an astral projection messenger pigeon. In the beginning, when I first experienced astral traveling, it was sort of involuntary. And then now I've learned how to intentionally, I guess you could say, control it or make it happen. But it still does happen almost involuntarily from time to time. The first time I ever heard about astral projection was from my dad. When I was a kid, my dad would tell us these stories of when he was like 5 and 6 years old, he would astral travel every night. Every night he went to bed, this would happen to him. And his story was so interesting to us as kids. Naturally, we completely believed it. We had no reason not to. And we wanted to know so many details. So we'd ask a lot of questions. And it was really fascinating because he was so young. He didn't know what was going on. No one around him talked about this. So he was actually pretty scared that it happened to him a lot, like every night. And he had this feeling like when he was traveling, what if I can't find my house? What if I can't find my way back? So he would tie an imaginary rope around his waist and then to his bed. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, was it imaginary? Or I wonder if he actually went and got a rope. I'm going to have to ask him. I think it was imaginary, but it's also likely that he got a rope and tied it to himself physically. But he would do that, so that he would find his way back. And the reason I find that even more fascinating is because when he had no instruction of this. He didn't even know what was going on. But when we guide people through astral projection meditation, or when you're first learning it, it's often something that is told to you to tie a cord around yourself and your space so that you can find your way back. Or you'll use the cord as a way to go up. So you'll use it as a rope to climb kind of out of your space, like a ladder, or out of your body or out of your home. And so I just think it's so interesting that he naturally did that for himself without having any idea of that being a way to do this process. So at that time in my childhood, I just thought this was something only my dad could do. I didn't know anybody else who even knew what it was, let alone could do it. And none of us were experiencing it, like none of my siblings or my mom. And sometimes it would come up around other adults, and no one even then knew what it was. And we would, tell our dad, like, tell them what you tell us. And he would explain it to them. And he would say, like, he would go over his whole city and he would travel all over. And then when I grew up and I was in my 20s, I found a book about astral projection. And it made so much sense to me to read from this perspective, because I already knew so much from my dad's experiences. And I started to realize that you could try to do this. In my mind as a child, I just thought he was the only one that did this. And it was so magical, but I didn't realize, oh yeah, any of us could do this. So that was the first time that I realized anyone can do it. I could do it. I could try it. So if you're unfamiliar with astral projection, astral traveling, sometimes called remote viewing, it basically is an out-of-body experience. Some people will describe it as an intentional out-of-body experience, but like I was saying, I've had it happen where it wasn't my intention, and still have that happen from time to time. So I think it could go either way, where you have a plan and you're going to do it, and then other times you just kind of are meditating and you end up somewhere. Other descriptions of it are like, it's a soul journey. Your soul is wandering. Your soul is traveling. Your astral body is exploring. I wanted to share 2 stories of times that I've, one sort of involuntarily done it, and then one where I intentionally was astral traveling. So the first story, I was in my very first, very serious sacred plant medicine ceremony, and I experienced it. And like I said, it was sort of involuntary because it wasn't my plan to do that. I wasn't trying to do that, but also I was in a sacred plant medicine ceremony, and anything can happen in those. So it's also not surprising. During the ceremony, I, of course, was in a meditation, but I suddenly found myself in what seemed to be a bar, and I saw people all around me very vividly. I could see what the bar looked like exactly. It was like I was one of the people standing at the bar, hanging out with all the people around me. But no one was talking to me. And I didn't realize in the moment, but I also didn't recognize anyone. And I wasn't like, no one was really looking at me. But I didn't realize that until later. And then the room that I physically was in the ceremony, someone knocked over their water bottle. And you know how that sounds like in a yoga class or any ceremony. It's just this loud clanging. And that jarred me to open my eyes. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm here in this ceremony, not in a bar. And I literally forgot where I was because I was in that bar. And so when I came out of that because of the water bottle falling, I did try to go back to wherever I was, but I couldn't do it. I didn't know how I got there in the first place because I just suddenly was there. I figured I had astral projected. but I just wasn't really sure because this was my first plant medicine ceremony of this level. And my experience with astral projection, typically I needed to bring myself out of my space. And in this, I was just there. So the next morning after the ceremony, when we were sharing different parts of our journey, I brought that up, that this happened to me. And someone in the group who was very familiar with the property that we were on and the area that we were in, they said we were kind of up on this hill. They said there is a bar right at the end of the hill of what we are on. The property we are on, the hill ends, and there's a bar right across the street. And it looks like how I described it. So I thought that was so incredible because it was extremely validating for my experience. Another time that I intentionally astral traveled, I was in a deep meditation and I traveled to my niece, who at the time was in the hospital. She spent the first few months of her life in the hospital after she was born. And because of COVID restrictions, only her mothers were allowed to see her and be with her. So I had never met her. I'd seen her through a window, but I never got to meet her in person. And in my journey to her, I was seeing her right in front of me. But for some reason, I was very focused on her foot and how tiny it was and what the skin looked like and what her nails looked like. And what was such a blessing and so synchronistic was that day or the next day, my sister-in-law, her mother, sent us a picture of just her foot sticking out of the hospital baby blanket. And it was completely validating for me of what I experienced, that she sent that, only her little foot, and it looked exactly like I'd seen it. And I knew the universe was telling me what I saw was real. And I feel like my response could have been in that moment like, oh yeah, that's her foot. I know, I saw it earlier. And it was such a hard time with her being in the NICU. And I was just so grateful to have visited her. Since I hadn't met her in person, it was nice to think that we were meeting on this astral plane. And so why I love astral projection is because really, number one, it's just fun, but it's so magical in those ways. It also really reminds me how much is possible, what we're capable of. Anyone can do this. It also reminds me that the limitations we can put on ourselves are hardly ever, really never true. And it really breaks the barriers of the reality that we're told exist. And I really feel like the more I break those and the more I bend that, the more I'm capable of, the more confident I am, the stronger I feel. And as a healer, I feel like my healing and my psychic abilities become more expansive, more powerful, because you're really helping yourself believe more in the impossible being possible. All things are possible. And that can help you in any area of your life to truly believe all things are possible. And really, like I said before, it's just fun. It's fun to be in a forest one day and looking at the details of a tree or a leaf, to visiting my family or checking out a country I've never visited, or playing in the stars. And so that brings me to some helpful ideas. If you're thinking to try astral traveling, or if you've done it and you want to continue your practice to improve your ability of it, I want to tell you some things that have really helped me, and maybe they can help you. So most people recommend doing it right after you wake up or just before you're falling asleep. And honestly, you can do it anytime, but if it's your first few times, that is the best time to do it, because you're mentally in the state that you need to be in, which is that in-between state. Another thing is you really want to be in a deep, relaxed meditative space, you want to be physically as relaxed as possible. Also, I love the idea, and I love doing this, using crystals to go around you, near you, on your third eye. You can hold them. If you have any crystals that have properties that help you travel, those are helpful. If you don't, but you know of them, you can invoke them into your space so that they can help support you. Always make sure that you're grounding your energy in some way so that you do feel like you know your way back. It allows your subconscious to feel more safe to really go for it because you know you're grounded, you know where your space is, where you're going to land. And always ask your guides or angels or creator to protect you. And that also helps you to feel safe, protected. And in anything, the more safe we feel, the more we can relax, the more we can flourish. So when you're first trying this, just travel in the room you're in. Look at things around the room, but in great detail. Specifically look for something that maybe you haven't paid attention to in a while, or you don't pay attention much to it, so that you can look at it from this perspective and really look at the details of it through your astral body. So the last thing I want to do today is take you through a 5-minute meditation that could really help you drop into this type of space where you're physically feeling very relaxed, and also tap into the vibration of your body, the energy of your body outside of the physical part of you. This is really helpful for astral traveling. I like to keep the meditations in the podcast about 5 minutes. So this may be something that you would need to do for longer. Again, I have about a 30-minute meditation that I can guide you through to really drop you in, guide you through the steps of astral traveling, going outside. I guide you into a space where you feel you can go to places, and then I bring you back. So if you're interested, email me. And if you say that you listen to this podcast, I will offer you 5% off of that as a thank you for listening. So before we do this meditation, I want to ask the void the question of the day, because that way we can end the podcast and you can, if you want to, drift further into the meditation afterwards, and we won't interrupt you as you're floating in your space. So void, my question today is, are you everything or are you nothing?
Neither. And yes.
Perfect. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Void. Okay, let's do a 5-minute meditation. Let's close our eyes. Take a nice long inhale and an even longer exhale. And again, a nice long inhale and an even longer exhale. Place your attention on the earth below you and imagine an energy coming from the earth as it moves into your feet. This energy allows you to relax all of the muscles and ligaments in your feet, so that you can only feel the vibration of your energy in your feet. Now bring up this energy through your legs and ask each muscle tendon to release and let go as you move your way all the way up to your hips, feeling your legs letting go so that you can only feel the energy of your legs. Moving this energy up through your hips and stomach, asking them to relax so much that you can only feel a vibration in this area. You're starting to move up through your back and chest, and ask each muscle to let go and release so that you can only feel the energy of your back and chest. Continuing to bring this energy through the arms, shoulders, and bring that energy down through your hands, asking them to relax so that you can feel the lightness of energy moving through your shoulders, your arms, down through your hands and fingertips. They all become only energy. As you continue up through the neck, asking the neck to let go of every tension, every muscle to release so that you can feel only energy in the neck. Finally, move up to your head, asking the muscles or ligaments to relax. Feel your face releasing. Feel your lips letting go. Feel your tongue fall from the roof of your mouth. And again, only feeling the energy moving through your head and face. You are now only feeling the energy vibration and the frequency of your body. So feel what that is like for a moment as that pulses through you. You can stay in this space as we move into our goodbye. If you are staying in your meditation, go ahead, or you can start to come back to your body, sensing the weight of yourself on the chair or whatever you're lying on. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you, healer, for joining us, and I wish you joy and serendipity on your healing journey, and I hope our paths cross again. Safe travels.